videos from Manipur and the horrible atrocities they reveal, they've literally shaken the country as nothing in recent memory has. Well, my two guests today have gone through something very similar to what you've seen on videos. They are two young Kuki women. It happened to them in Imphal on the 4th of May. In the case of Nancy, her mother-in-law and her husband was murdered. She was brutally beaten up. She ended up with cuts and injuries on her head, blood clots on her brain that required surgery. Her hands were broken. She spent weeks in ICU and days in hospital in Delhi. In the case of Kim, it was her mother and her brother who were killed, and she too was brutally beaten up. But both of them are determined to talk about what happened because they want their countrymen to know what they've suffered and how they were treated. They are very brave young girls, yet it can be by no means easy to relive a trauma you've been through just 2.5 months ago. I'm deeply grateful for them, for the story that they are willing to tell. Nancy, why don't you start by introducing yourself? You're in your late 20s. How long had you been married when this terrible thing happened?
My name is Nancy Jingtianyang. I'm 29 years old. I'm a survivor of ethnic cleansing in Manipur. I lost my husband and my mother-in-law on the 4th of May. I was married for only 5 months when that happened.
So you were a new bride?
Yes.
Kim, tell me about yourself.
My name is Samay Kim Gangte. I'm 20 years old. I'm a second-year college student, and I'm a survivor of the ethnic cleansing in Manipur, and I also witnessed the brutal murder of my mother and my brother in broad daylight.
What are you studying in university?
I'm studying mathematics in the university.
And in what year were you?
I'm in the second year.
Now, your mother, I believe, was an undersecretary with the government in Manipur. Your father works in the police department in Imphal, but when this happened, he was in Churachandpur.
Yes.
I take it your father knows what's happened.
Yes.
Have you met him since this happened?
Not yet. He was in Lamka when this whole thing happened, and since we directly flew from Imphal to Delhi, we have not been able to meet him yet.
Where do your parents live, Nancy? Do they live in Imphal?
No, they live in Lamka, Churachandpur.
So you came to Imphal after your marriage?
No. Before I got married, we stayed in Imphal. But then after I got married, my parents shifted to Lamka, Churachandpur on March.
Tell me, Nancy, what happened on the 4th of May? Give me as many details as you're prepared to share. And Kim, as she speaks, if you feel a need to supplement what she's saying or to fill in when she's forgotten, please happily do so. But why don't you start by telling me what happened on the 4th of May?
Where before the 4th of May, on 3rd May, we stay at our relative home. Because the Meitei community started burning houses in different areas of the Imphal, like houses and churches. So we're afraid for our life. So we stay together with our relative, so that we feel more safer to stay together. Then in the morning on 4th May, at our morning, we head back home. Then
back home in Imphal?
Yeah, back home in Imphal. Then we heard about the news that the CRPF came, which provide escort to our hometown, Lamka, Churachandpur. So then we pack our things as whatever we could and started
heading towards the CRPF
camp, which is near the DC office in Far West. So on the way, mobs of Meitei and Mera Paibi were blocking the roads. were blocking and stop us from going to the camp. Then the mob look at our face, like try to identify are they Métis or Kuki. Then as soon as they see us, they know that we are Kuki, so they told us to come out of the car, and they told us to come out of the car and forcefully just pull out of the car. Then they start breaking the car and all with a wooden stick or an iron stick. Then they pour kerosene and burn the car. Then the mobs started beating up my husband on the side. Then the rest of us, like, we're 7 members on the car, so the rest are only a woman and a baby. And so when the mob started beating up my husband, the rest of us ran towards him to protect him and seal him as we could. Then among the Métis mob, one man stopped, help us, like break up the help my husband from the mob, and he make all of us sit on the bench in front of a shop on the side of the road. He make us sit on the bench, and he said that I'll help you. I'll do what I can to help you and let you go. He said that. So my mother-in-law started crying and pleads to the man that please help us, please let us go. And she was crying so much that she was so weak. She played them as much as she could, but the mobs were so many in front of us, and they were shouting at us, saying, "You are Kuki. We used to be dead. We should kill you. We don't deserve like they were telling us that we don't deserve to live." So they were asking us, "Where are you going?" And at first they asked our identity card, like Aadhaar card, to identify are we Kuki or not. Then we say that we are Mizo, but among the mobs, I mean, so that Mizo and Kuki are the same. Let's kill them. Then they said that. Then they try to beat up my husband since he's the only man, and they target my husband, like the men mostly at the time. So they try to beat my husband, but the rest of us, me, my mother-in-law, my sister, my cousin, and my auntie who was carrying the baby, we seal my husband as much as we can. Then the man who helped us in the beginning stopped the man from beating up my husband. Then a car drove by, and a car came up. Then most of the mob go towards that car, like as they come and stop us. And they go to the car. While they were busy with that car, the men told us to hide in one home that's behind the shop. Yeah, then behind the shop, he make us go to the house and hide us.
So this man who was helping you, who made you sit on the bench, took you to hide in a home or a shop behind.
Yeah, a home.
A home right behind the shop.
But all that time, her husband, your brother, was being beaten up by them.
Yes. He already started bleeding when they beat him up in the road, and we were made to sit on the bench. We were questioned about our identity, whether we were Kuki.
And you were sitting on the bench, forced to watch your brother being beaten.
No, my brother was also on the bench. The 6 of us with the baby, we were made to sit on the bench, and we were questioned. And while we were being questioned, another car drove into that area. And while the mob was distracted, the same man who tried to help us out, he took us to a nearby, no, a house, a kacha house, right behind the shop, and we went into that house. We locked the doors, and after some time, the mob they came to know that we were hiding in that house, so they came towards the house and they started pelting stones at the house, and I started dialing the helpline number 112, and to my surprise, it did not work. So since we know that they were targeting men first, my mother and me, we locked all the doors and we tried to block the mob from coming inside. We made our brother stay inside, and the mob they pushed the door open, and my mother and me, we stood at the door trying to block the mob from coming inside, but they hit us with iron rods, long iron rods from outside. So they hit me in my hand and I started bleeding, so I was already scared and shaking, but I still stood at that door. And after some time, a man with a big body, he pulled me by my hair, and the mob they entered the house and pulled all of us out of the house. We were all separated from each other, and they pulled me by my hair to the road, and even while walking up to the road, they constantly hit me with sticks and large wooden.
What was happening to your brother and mother at this time?
We were all separated, so I did not see them until I reached the main road.
And then what happened? You saw your brother being attacked and killed.
And when I reached the main road, I started searching for my family members. And to my right, I saw my brother running on the road. He was already bleeding, so I started running towards him. And at the side, I saw my aunt carrying a 1-year-old baby. And the women folk, the Mera Paibis, were hitting and slapping the baby and even pushing the baby's head.
They were hitting and slapping a 1-year-old baby.
Yes, the baby was crying the whole time since he was too scared. And even my aunt carrying the baby was being hit by wooden. What was being hit by woods, and the baby cried the whole time since it was too scared. And
the mob attacked your brother, and were you there when they were attacking him and killing him?
Yes, and I saw my brother running towards the opposite direction to my right, and I started chasing my brother and tried to cover him up. His head was already bleeding and he could not run for long. He fell down on the road, and I tried to lay on top of him trying to cover him up, but the mob, they started running towards him and pushed me away from my brother. And since I was a bit far from my brother that time, and the mob, they were busy trashing up my brother, a man whispered to me to run away if I did not want to die. And
you had no choice.
I had no choice but to start running in the...
What happened to your mother?
I did not see my mother that time, and as I started running towards the opposite direction, my aunt carrying the baby and my cousin sister, they were right beside me on the road. I pulled them up, and the three of us with the baby, we started running towards the opposite direction. And as I turned back for the last time, my brother was lying on the road. He was already unconscious. He was covered in blood. And my mother tried to cover up my brother as a human shield. She lied on top of my brother, trying to cover him up. And the mob around my brother's body, they were cheering and clapping and celebrating at the sight of my mother and my brother lying on the road.
Do you think the same mob, while your mother was protecting your brother, killed her?
Yes. And that was the last time I saw both my mother and my brother.
What happened to you, Nancy? You got separated from everyone. What did they do to you?
Well, in the house we stayed together. All of us would stay, but while we stay, like maybe 1 minute, around 1 minute, I look at my husband and I see that he was bleeding, so I asked him, "How are you? Are you in pain?" I asked him, and he was so tired. He was shuddering in fear and in pain, and he would answer me so in fainted voice that I'm fine. It's not paining, but I can see that he was lying because he doesn't want to make us worry or scared. So
He was being brave.
yes, he was acting brave. I know that, and that was the last conversation I had with my husband, and that's the last time I see him. And then the mob opened up the front gate, like my sister-in-law said. They pull out my husband from the house. They pull, and then the rest of us also follow the mob and my husband. But behind me, the Mera Paibi pulled me by my hair in the opposite direction, away from my family. They pulled me and kicked me or punched, start attacking me. Then I plead them. I plead to them, please let me go. I want to go to my family. Please let me go. But they wouldn't even listen and just started hitting me with a stick, my legs and my hands, and started slapping me on my face. Then I started bleeding and my hands started swelling. And they even tried to tear my clothes, and they made me sit down on the side of the road, and a woman, the Mera Paibi, one woman would shout to me and talk about the fake news about Kuki men rape Meite, and he was shouting, talking about that, and then the Mera Paibi, that woman would shout to their Meite men, I give you the right to rape this woman. Come and rape her.
The Mira Paibe was saying to Maite men, I give you the right to rape this woman.
Yes.
Meaning you.
Yes, me.
Did they attempt any molestation?
No. But she was shouting and asking the men to rape me. Then I was so surprised and I cried because she's a woman. And how could she say that to another woman? And I was so scared and I was surprised and I was so afraid. Then later they would ask me to walk away. They would ask me to walk to the Meitei Community Hall.
They asked you to walk to the Meitei Community Hall.
Yes.
What happened there?
They told me to walk to the Meitei Community Hall. Then I walked slowly because my legs were so pain and numb. I couldn't even walk fast. Then right before I reached the community hall, they